Thank you very much. Thank you, Rabbi Moshe Shiner, for welcoming me to Palm Beach. Thank you, my friend Tom Trento. Thank you, Anne and Eric Fishman. Thank you, Elaine Miller, for organizing this wonderful event and helping me this week. And last but not least, welcome to the US Border Police for allowing me in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, these are dramatic times. Europe might be very well on its way to destruction. We are now witnessing a large influx in human history, which is endangering our history, our freedom, our prosperity, and our culture. And I wish I had come to a place they call the Sunshine State with better news. But unfortunately, I don't. It would be unwise to deny that the situation in Europe is gloomy. And it might take a while to have you understand the situation that we are in now. Maybe you as Americans still think that Europe is a place with a great culture and a profound way with looking at things. Maybe you see immigration as something that is inherently good for our country, as it contributed so much to the United States of America. The Europe, ladies and gentlemen, the Europe you know from a tourist visit or from a story from friends or family is on the verge of collapsing. We are now witnessing profound changes that will forever alter Europe's destiny and might send our continent, our European continent, in what Ronald Reagan once called 1,000 years of darkness. And I will be blunt to you tonight because I want to be honest and I want to tell you the truth. The takeover in Europe is part of the global fight from Islam for world domination. Islam, as a matter of fact, is not a religion. Islam is a totalitarian political ideology. Islam's heart lies in the Quran. And we all know that the Quran is a book full of hatred, full of violence, murder, terrorism, war, and submission. The Quran calls upon Muslims to kill non-Muslims. The Quran, we saw in my movie, describes Jews as monkeys and pigs. And Churchill, once in a book in the 50s for which he got the Nobel Prize, Churchill compared the Quran to Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. And I have, unfortunately, to agree with him. And the core, ladies and gentlemen, the core of the problem in Islam is twofold. First, the commands in the Quran are not limited by place or time. They apply for all time. They apply for all Muslims. And second, the Quran is Allah's personal word, which leaves no room at all for interpretation. Therefore, there is no such thing as a moderate Islam. Of course, sure, there are moderate Muslims, but there is no moderate Islam. As the Turkish Prime Minister, Mr. Erdogan, once put it when he said, and I quote, "There is no moderate Islam, Islam is Islam." And ladies and gentlemen, apart from that terrible book, the Quran, the life of the Prophet Muhammad plays also a very crucial part in the Islamic ideology. Muhammad, as you know, is a model for all Muslims. But what was he? In fact, Muhammad was a pedophile. He was a conqueror. He was a warlord. In establishing Islam, he preached violence. He preached the slaughter of non-Muslims. And he did. He took part in 78 battles and slaughtered the Jewish tribe of Banu Qurayza. And Muhammad said, I have been ordered by Allah to fight against people until they testify that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. Muhammad's behavior inspired even the former Iranian leader Ayatollah Khomeini when he said, and I quote Khomeini, the purest joy in Islam is to kill and to be killed for Allah. End of quote. And Muhammad's behavior and the Quran, in fact, inspire jihadists that slaughtered innocent people in Washington, in New York, in Madrid, in London, in Amsterdam, and in Mumbai. Ladies and gentlemen, Islam has always tried and attempted to conquer Europe. And it has done so for centuries. The Christian city of Constantinople fell, as you know, in the 15th century. And now, in the 21st century, Islam is trying again. But this time, not with armies, but through the application of Al-Hijra, the Islamic doctrine of immigration. As expounded so masterfully by my good friend Sam Solomon, who is sitting there and wrote an excellent book about it. The title of the book, The Trojan Horse, Al-Hijra, the doctrine that is based on the example of Muhammad, who, as you know, migrated himself from Mecca to Medina. And the Libyan leader, the leader of the country Libya, Muhammad al-Gaddafi, said, we have 50 million Muslims in Europe today. There are signs that Allah will grant Islam victory in Europe, without swords, without guns, without conquest. The 50 million Muslims of Europe will turn it into a continent within a few decades. Now, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, Gaddafi is right. The Al-Hijra doctrine is and has been very successful. For the first time in world history, there are dozens of millions of Muslims living far outside the Dar al-Islam, the Islamic world. And that poses an enormous and continuously threat to the West. Ladies and gentlemen, this Al-Hijra may be the end of the Western civilization as we know it. And I'm not exaggerating. For Islam is not coming to our societies to assimilate or to integrate, but wants to dominate and wants to submit us all. And the most dramatic situation today in the world is certainly and unfortunately Europe, the continent that I live in. My country today is in the process of becoming Hollandistan, like Europe is becoming Eurasia. Let me give you a few examples. Only 12% of the German Muslims see themselves more German than Muslim. Churches are emptying out, whereas mosques are shooting up like mushrooms. Medieval phenomena such as burqas, like honor killings, like female genital mutilation are becoming more and more prevalent in Europe. We have Sharia testaments, we have Sharia mortgages, we have Sharia schools, we have Sharia banks, we have Sharia courts, as Lord Malcolm Pearson already said in the United Kingdom, and we even have Sharia Barbie dolls. Europe, ladies and gentlemen, has them all. And I have not even mentioned the fact that, for instance, in a city as Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, 70% of all the crimes are committed by Muslims today. We indeed let in the Trojan horse in Europe. And ladies and gentlemen, our free world is now facing a stealth jihad, the Islamic attempt to introduce Sharia law bit by bit. And allow me to give you a few examples of the Islamization in your own country. In the United taxi drivers at Minneapolis airport have refused over 5,000 passengers because they were carrying alcohol. Muslim students are demanding separate campus housing. Muslim women are demanding separate hours in gyms and swimming pools. Schools are banning Halloween, are even banning Christmas celebrations. All not to offend Muslims. Ladies and gentlemen, be aware that this is only the beginning. We had it all in Europe. If things continue like this, you will have and face the same problems that we are facing in Europe today. If we, in fact, do not stop the Islamization of our societies, we will lose everything. We will lose our identity. We will lose our culture. We will lose our constitutional state, our democracy, our freedom, and our civilization. And in Europe, we are already in the process of losing free speech, losing the right to criticize Islam. And I think that to be able to criticize, that the criticism of religions and ideologies always should be possible. And therefore, I believe that in Europe we should introduce an American kind of First Amendment. First Amendment, because the difference between the United States and Europe is very clear. And an example is the showing of the film Fitna that you just saw. A film that was not only banned in the European Parliament, and I was not allowed to enter the United Kingdom, but it was shown in the US Senate, when I was invited by Senator John Cao. And in contrast of the European appeasers, it was possible to be shown at your own Parliament. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, there is one country in the world that has been forced to fight the forces of jihad for its values since the very first day of its existence. And this is Israel, the canary in the coal mine. Let me say a few words about that wonderful country that I had the privilege to live in for a few years, and since then visited many times. I love the state of Israel. However, in Europe, being pro-America and being pro-Israel makes you almost an endangered species today. But Israel, ladies and gentlemen, is a beacon of light in an area, the Middle East, that is pitch black everywhere else. Israel is a Western democracy, while Syria, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, whatever country in the region, are medieval dictatorships. And very important to tell you that this so-called Middle East conflict is not, ladies and gentlemen, is not about land at all. It's a conflict about ideologies. A battle between Islam and freedom. It is not about a piece of land. It is not about some land in Gaza or in Judea or in Samaria. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only about jihad. To Islam, the whole of Israel is occupied territory. They see Tel Aviv and Haifa as settlements too. And I am very much in favor of a two-state solution. But then I mean the Churchill 1921 two-state solution, when Palestine was partitioned into a Jewish state and an Arab part. Palestine, the Arab Palestine of today, is now called Jordan. And therefore, there is already a Palestinian state. With almost 80% of the population having roots on the other side of Jordan, with having a Palestinian queen, there is no doubt that Jordan is truly the state of Palestine. And I hope that the Israeli government will start telling that